Welcome to the Ayurvedic Woman podcast, speaking truth about Ayurveda, yoga, spirituality, and female empowerment. Jai Bhagwan, everybody, and welcome to the Ayurvedic Woman podcast. It's me, Dr. Satyavani, and yes, I am alive. I know it's been a long time, but I'm really glad that you're back. I'm really glad to be here, and thank you so much for listening. The past 4 months, because yes, it has been 4 months, and I own that, have been chock full of so many things. So not excuses, but rather just an explanation and an update of where I have been and things that have been going on. There have been speaking engagements. There have been intensive Ayurvedic woman trainings as part of the academy. The Woman Warrior Academy is in this beautiful initial growth and development stage that has been activated with the Ayurveda 108 and now the 108 Plus. And I had a retreat for my advanced level acharyas. So there's been a lot going on, and I'm glad that I'm able to catch you up with it. I have also been intensifying my training, and that resulted in having a busted right shoulder, which was haunting me for about a month, to the point where I couldn't even lift my arm. And now I can lift it, and so I'm very grateful for that. And I want to thank all of the people such as Bonnie O'Shea and GT Theravati who helped me with that repair, as well as my trainer, August Ritter, who gave me some really great exercises to help work that and keep the capsule of the shoulder working and moving and lubricated. So it takes a village and a team for sure. What was interesting is that this pain in my shoulder then caused some pain in my mind and in my emotions. And it all had this trickle-down effect and then sort of this reverse osmosis effect, which is sort of the topic, not sort of, but is the topic for today, going from pain to power. And the physical pain manifested from a very deep mental, emotional pain that I was unaware of, and probably parts of it that I still am unaware of to a certain degree. And the mental emotional pain came as a result of the physical pain because I also have a hard time dealing with physical limitations. So there's this mental emotional play that plays into the physical pain, and then the physical pain that plays back into the mental emotional part of it. So the two often play off one another, and that I think is a metaphor for our lives. What's interesting about all of this was the realization I came to as it relates to pain in general. So pain is an interesting thing. As mentioned, there is physical pain, there is mental pain, emotional pain, and even spiritual pain, especially when we're on the precipice of a major transformation. That spiritual pain really starts to kind of kick up and kick in when we're in that major shift time. And I have a friend going through that right now. And in Jyotish astrology, as my friend and colleague Casey Scott says, it's the fourth house, the house of yoga and sadhana, or practice. And the fourth house is, if you look at a Jyotish chart, it's literally under your feet, as he would say, which I thought was a fantastic metaphor. So thank you, Casey. In Ayurveda, the idea of pain manifests as a symptom of imbalanced Vata, which is also that air and ether element. It's also rajasic in nature, denoting shift and change and instability. So I definitely felt the instability in my shoulder over the past several months. And what I also know is that this Vata pain, this pain that exists inside of our bodies and in even our mental emotional space, also provides us with a huge level of information. And so it is what we do with that information that turns our pain into power. Pain affects all of us in different ways. And some become paralyzed by it, others become depressed, others become angry and frustrated. I'm definitely on the angry, frustrated side of life. And others can become very patient and forgiving and become very compassionate as a result. So there's a variety of ways in which we respond to how pain manifests. And so, how do you deal with pain when it comes up? Do any of those categories really resonate with you? And there's no right or wrong answer, but how we respond to it, how we take action with it, is what actually matters. And so, how do we turn our pain into power? Pain has an energetic that's attached to it, and that brings up many different energetic responses. And so, what are the characteristics of that energetic? Why is knowing those characteristics of this energy important, you could ask? Like, why is it really relevant? Who cares? It's just pain. But it's actually not. It's not just about the pain itself, but what are the characteristics of it? So, as an example, when I feel the energetic of pain, what comes up for me is frustration and heat. And that's sort of a stereotypical pit of fire response. There's a surprise, right? So knowing those characteristics, how do I transform the characteristics of frustration and heat into something powerful? And the reality is that an action needs to be taken. Otherwise, it just stays and lingers as pain. And staying in pain only breeds more pain. That's just a reality. You have to take an action to get at the root of the pain. And when we start to get at the root of the pain, we unearth more knowledge. Now, this process of getting at the pain and unrooting the core of it can actually cause us more pain initially. Yay, right? So exciting. No, actually, I understand. And that can be difficult. And that's because it requires us to look at our shit. And the shadows and the darkness and the things that we really don't want to deal with. But I can guarantee this. If you do not step into what I call the courage machine, if you don't step into the courage machine and take action to examine the pain and its roots, you will never be able to turn it into power. You have to understand its nature. You have to understand where it comes from, its origins, in order for you to turn it into power. And this is exactly what is happening now. So many of us in society stay in the pain and we recycle it over and over and over again, never stepping into the courage machine to do the examination. And that is actually really causing us not only more pain, but it is denying us the access to our power. And then we expect that it will magically disappear one day if we decide that we're just going to avoid it. And avoidance does not do anything for you. Rather, it just keeps you stuck. And the stuckness then leads to a whole variety of peripheral symptoms. It leads us to being indecisive. It leads to confusion. It leads to our inability to make commitments. It leads to lethargy and flakiness and so on. So a lot of what we experience in society right now, this idea of, well, I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm going to avoid it. And as a result, I don't make commitments. I am lethargic. I'm flaky. I'm irresponsible. I'm not reliable to myself or to others, is a symptom of the deeper issue that we do not want to step into that very painful situation to examine it so we can eventually turn it into power. And there's fear that's around that. And so my question to you is that who you want to be? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be the person that goes in there, says, hey, I've got my shit, And guess what? We all do. We all have our shit, and there's some beauty and there's also some ugliness. And so when we start to move into stepping into that ugliness, we can start to unearth it. And actually, our society breeds on us not examining our shit. It wants you to stay stuck because stepping into your power actually changes everything. And so moving from pain to power requires action. It has to have an action associated with it. Staying stuck, staying inert is not going to do anything but perpetuate the cycle of pain. And the action is a process in the transformation itself. So we want to get from pain to power, and so we have to take an action so that we can facilitate a transformation. And transformation in both Ayurveda and yoga is associated with the element of fire. And what's fascinating about that element is that it literally is the only one of the 5 elements that can take something and transform it into something entirely different. So we'll just use a piece of paper as an example. You can have a piece of paper, you put it into a fireplace, or you just light it on fire, and it turns into something entirely different. It turns into ash. So fire is a very powerful element, and it also cultivates the sensation of heat. So transformation in both Ayurveda and yoga are associated with the element of fire and the sensation of heat. And the organ of action that it's associated with is the eyes. And so it's about our discernment. It is our ability to make out the next step in our life through deep reflection and meditation. And so the only way that we transform things is by activating this element, by activating this heat and using the heat of the eyes to begin to transform and to really examine ourselves. In yoga, we call this process tapas, and not the food that you eat, not the little bits that you get at a restaurant that they call tapas, although the notion of that actually comes from the yogic philosophy of tapas, meaning the disciplined use of our energy. So tapas means to heat, and it expands out to mean how is it that we use our energy. And so how disciplined are you in the use of your energy? Going into your pain and examining that requires a tremendous amount of focus and discipline in the use of our energy. It takes a lot. And it's so easy to decide that we are going to do something else. Well, I don't really want to deal with my pain, so I'm going to have that extra glass of wine instead because it numbs me from that. I really don't want to go into my pain, whether, again, physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. So instead, I am going to eat that extra piece of cake or shop on Amazon or whatever the layer is that I'm going to put over it. But tapas, this idea of disciplined use of our energy, really calls us to be very focused in how it is that we use our energy to get to our shit. And if pain is an energy, how disciplined are you in listening to what it has to say and what it really has to say? So my shoulder, as an example, yes, I can point to the fact that 20 plus years ago, I was hit by a car on my bicycle. I've had both of my shoulders operated on. I'm right side dominant, so of course my right shoulder is going to bother me when I overuse it, et cetera, et cetera. But what is it really telling me? Is it telling me that I have too much on my shoulders and that I really need to examine what that is, in addition to a variety of other deeper, more profound things? So it's never really about the physical ailments because, as we know in Ayurveda, all physical manifestations are the result of a deeper mental, emotional, and spiritual pain that exists. And so I realized that, I can treat it. I can do the PT and all of those kinds of things, etc. And I can do the Thai massage. I can do the deep tissue massage. I can do the exercises, all of which absolutely helped. And I'm extremely appreciative. But the reality is that I had to do a very deep dive into what that pain actually was and how to approach it in a more profound way, because there was something deeper that was going on. And avoiding pain does nothing for you. And a lot of times when we have pain, especially physical pain, we're often like, it's no big deal. Like it'll sort itself out. I'll just give it a couple of days, et cetera, et cetera. And then a few days that we don't address it turns into a week turns into two to three, and then you're a month in and it's like, what the hell is going on? And it's getting more and more agonizing. And so taking action turns that pain into power. We start to gain knowledge. And that's where power lies. Knowledge is power. It also lessens the fear, which is the only reason why we don't take action in the first place. Taking action, taking a step towards addressing our pain, is really what turns things around. It is that action step that allows us to address any fears it is that we might have. Oh, I don't really want to deal with this, but guess what? Once you start to address it, once you start to confront it, once you start to run towards it, it becomes less scary. And that's just a reality. So, what does all of this pain to power stuff do anyway, huh? It gives you the physical body and condition that you want. It gives you the mental space and clarity that you want. It gives you the relationships that you want. It gives you the abundance, the career path, the dharma that you want, your purpose. When you take on pain, create an action behind it, transform its energy, you create power. And that's pretty darn amazing. It's this power that gives you the life you want in all of its aspects. That's what I got today, friends. And what I am going to encourage you to do is to join the Woman Warrior Academy. You want to talk about turning pain into power? The stuff that's going on in the Academy right now is just legendary. And what these women are doing for themselves and what they're doing for one another as a team is absolutely incredible. Become the woman warrior that you are meant to be. And you can find out information about the Academy on my website, satyavanirising.com. And the Ayurvedic Woman Program, Level 1, is now offered as an online offering beginning this January 2023. So you can start there, or you can participate in any of the activities that are in the Academy. And we have coming up in the late spring Shakti Camp. And so there's going to be more details on that as well. So engage, join the Academy, become part of this, and transform your pain into power. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. It was so good to be back. I love it. And Jai Bhagwan. And as always, may your soul be victorious.